Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video we are going to be making the Noel bag by iThinkSew patterns. And that's not me saying like I think so, I remember the name of the pattern, it's iThinkSew patterns, S-E-W. So we made a few modifications to this bag and I'm so excited about them. So what we did is we added this really nice across the panel zipper pocket. I'm trying to hold it straight. This is a really fun, quick, and easy addition. You can actually add to literally any sewing pattern. It's so fun. And another thing we changed up was the width of the zipper panel. The original calls for I think 1.5 inch and we ended up making it 2 inches wide, and that really saves us in the long run. And then I add a slip pocket to the inside as well as the standard zipper pocket. The original has this pocket panel that goes all the way around and you have to like stitch down lines. It makes it super bulky and really difficult to sew, especially when you're working with thick vinyls. If you're using quilting cottons, it's not so bad. It actually helps add strength and stability, but when you're working with vinyl, it's just too much. So we changed that up and I explained how to do that in the video. And then another thing we changed is the main version actually has a center panel of accent fabric that you wouldn't know because in the main photo you can't see it because they're using the same fabric. Not a big deal. So we're making the small size, but I've actually already made the medium size, which has that center panel, and you can see the side pockets, what they look like as well. And this bottom panel here is so thick. You can see just how thick that seam is there. It's intense. It's a lot of fabric to sew together. But this one here, nice, easy. But we did add this side seam, which I think kind of looks nice. It almost makes it like a flat bottom tote instead of a round bottom. But yeah, you can see how big of a difference that zipper panel makes as well, especially when you're top stitching. Yeah. And then we'll show the size difference as well. They're not too different, but you can definitely tell there is a size difference. I personally love the size of the medium the most, even though it's a really big bag. So the small from side to side is actually about 17 inches. From pocket to pocket, and the medium here is like 19, so I don't know, it's really not that big of a difference, but I have to say I've become a really big fan of this bag. It's so quick to make, it's so fun. These pockets here are separate and they're actually usable, which is a lot different than the Annette bag is. So yeah, I can't think of any other changes I made to the pattern, except of course the strap connectors. I did add strap connectors because I personally don't like straps that can't like fold over, I don't know, or like lean to one way or the other. Maybe I'm weird, but the only other thing I would change is maybe you subscribing to my channel. You know, if you're not already. If you are, thank you so much. It means the world to me to have you guys here. Yeah, that's it. Enjoy the video. Seriously, just enjoy it. Thanks. So, the very first thing that we're going to start with on this bag is our straps, our handles, whatever you want to call them. And I've cut mine to 24 inches long by 4 inches wide, so I'm going to throw some double-sided tape over that really quick. Centered nicely. We'll just get both over here. Peel off the backing, and then we're going to fold that edge up. Oops. That's not the tape's fault, that's my fault. couldn't hurt. Okay, so you can see I folded the edges of the strap inward. I always like to leave a little bit of room in between, just so that when it's folded over, it's got a little bit extra room to sit nicely. So I'm just folding those edges in. Again, this double-sided tape is from waywak.com, WAWAK.com, and it is 1/2-inch leather tape. Not all machines can handle it. They can start to kind of gum up your needle after a while, but you can use it in places where you know you won't necessarily be sewing through. So you could try to use the 1/4-inch double-sided tape instead. That might work a little bit better. So I'm going to start at the top of the handle using a stitch length of 4.5. Start with a back stitch. Oh, and your needle down. Oh, I see. Okay. There we go. Back stitch. And then I'm just slowly walking the strap through with my fingers. I kind of like to use my hands as a guide. You can see here I'm holding it with my thumbs and my middle fingers and just slowly holding it gently, letting it go. And then we'll pull our threads through if we can. I'm actually going to leave them long and then we'll trim them up in a second. Just making sure those stitches look nice, and they do. Set my handle aside. Start on this one. Back stitch. I'm going to use this handy dandy thread zap tool. It's available through Amazon. I have the link in my bio, or in the video description I should say. And I'm just going to hold this button down and press to ignite the heating element, and then I can just trim my threads away nice and easy. And I'll repeat that with this next one. So this just kind of helps keep your thread from fraying, since it's kind of sealing it with heat. If you burn your thread too much, it will give off an odor and that smoke. Okay, so I'm going to set my straps aside now, and I'm going to work on my strap connectors, just so they're also out of the way. Completed. Oh, I didn't grab any of my hardware, so let me grab that really quick. Silly me. What's really nice about this pattern is it doesn't use that much hardware. It actually doesn't even require any, now that I'm thinking about it, but I like to add connectors just because personally I like my straps to be able to kind of move if needed. This sewing pattern kind of seems to be meant mostly for quilting cottons. That's what the pattern is shown with, other than like a faux leather or vinyl handles. But I like to go a little fancier with my bags. So I cut my strap connectors to 2 inches wide by 3 inches long, and I'm just using a piece of tape down the center. This center tape honestly is not required. It just helps me keep everything in place quickly and easily, so I like it. We're gonna peel that tape off. fold my centers in. Feel free to let me know down below if you guys have used double-sided tape, and if it does work for you, what kind of machine you use. I'd love to be able to tell people that yes, it works, or no, it doesn't. And then if you haven't tried double-sided tape, let me know down below too. Like, why do you think you don't need to use it, etc. I'm not advocating for it, but it has saved me so much time. I'll be uploading a video later next week making the Emily tote bag, since I'm rewriting that sewing pattern. I released it a few years ago, but I've learned so much since then, so I wanted to kind of update the pattern, and it'll be pretty awesome. Right, so I'm just sewing down one side, back stitching at the end. Normally I wouldn't worry about back stitching, but with these strap connectors, they're going to be sewn into a seam, so I want to make sure that they don't come undone over time. So I'm just going down one end, and then I'm going to mark down the next. One more. Just gonna trim all my excess. I'm not too worried about those little threads because they're gonna be inside of a seam, so they're not gonna cause much of an issue. Sorry if that gives you anxiety or anything. All right, so with the wrong side facing up, I'm just gonna take my 1-inch connector and turn it through like that. And I'm literally just gonna add 4 clips. So 1 clip there. Fold this through, fold it completely over, add another clip, and I will leave these set aside for now. And then these are hardware connectors that are available to order through my website. You can see how pretty and different these connectors are. They're so fun. All right, so now we are gonna get started. This part is not in the pattern. It is definitely not required. I just wanted to kind of change it up a little bit. So that's why I'm doing this. Yeah, so I made this mark. This is my front panel. This is the very top. And I made this mark 3.5 inches from the top, and it's a little over 11 inches long. So what I'm gonna do is just cut right along there. And now I have a top half of my zipper section and a bottom half. So my zipper panel is gonna go right there. I'm not too worried about this altering the size of my panel, because once we add our zipper to it, it kind of takes away that seam allowance anyway. At least that's what I've realized in the past. So I'm not super worried about it. I also cut 2 pieces that are a little bit bigger than this panel here, and that's going to be like the zipper pocket lining, of course. And you can actually cut this off while you're cutting and interfacing the bag, and then cut 2 pieces that are close to the exact same size, but I just kind of cut 2 pieces that were bigger than I needed to save time. So yeah, there's my super long unnecessary story. I'm gonna be using black zippers for this bag, so I'm just gonna grab a black zipper really quick. It goes, it works. I'm gonna iron it before I get started. I always like to iron my zippers first. And then I also cut these zipper tabs. These are 3 inches by 1.5 inches. And I've cut 2 of them. So yeah, I would like my finished zipper panel to, honestly, I would like it to be that size. So this is gonna seem a little unorthodox. There's definitely a lot more math that could be involved, but I wanted to make it really easy and quick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my zipper tab and I'm gonna lay it over my zipper, or I guess I could do it this way, and I'm gonna sew right next to that zipper end. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. You wanna make sure that the right sides of your pieces are facing each other. I'm just gonna sew right next to that metal stop. Let me unzip it a little. Okay. Trim all those extra pieces. So now when I go to open this up, I'm just gonna top stitch down. You can add 2 little rows of stitching if you wanted, but I'm just gonna add 1. I think that will suffice. We'll just feed this side through as well, fold that over. Okay. Beautiful. All right, so there is what my zipper panel looks like. Hopefully you can see that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of fold it into the center and make the tiniest little snip. And then I'm gonna fold this piece in half and make another tiny little snip. Again, you could have figured out the math. It was about 11 inches wide. And done the math to cut your zipper tabs and your zipper, etc. But I was just like, whatever. So the zipper size that I'm using is 9 inches. Yeah, I'm using a 9-inch zipper. So 2-inch zipper tabs probably would have done it just fine. Where'd my little snap go? I made such a small snip, I don't even know where it is. So I want my zipper to be facing to the right, no, to the left. Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just quickly baste my zipper into place. Right side facing down. Okay. And then I'm going to add one of these lining panels right over top of that. I'm going to clip it from the other side so that way when I flip it over I can see where I base stitched. And we're just going to come in a little ways from that stitch line. You can see I made this piece bigger, but that's okay. We're just gonna trim the excess. I just wanted to make sure that it fit. And if you have to unzip that zipper while you're going, I would recommend it. Couldn't hurt. Okay. So now, if you wanted to, you could fold this down and only top stitch through here. But I'm gonna fold this down completely and iron it from the wrong side and top stitch it down. Just using a little bit of steam to press it out, not hitting those vinyl tabs. And we're just gonna sew all the way across the panel. Nice and slow. And now we're gonna grab this top panel. Again, make sure you keep it at that trapezoidal shape. I'm gonna lay this over top. kind of centered on there. Well, I guess honestly you could lay this down and kind of, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna clip it from the wrong side, because then I'm gonna flip it over like this so I can see where everything is. And I'm just gonna, again, base that all in place. And then I'm gonna grab this second lining piece that we cut out and lay that on top of there. Clip from the wrong side. You want to make sure that your linings are facing right sides together and that your exteriors are facing right sides together. We'll base that there. Again, if you need to unzip that zipper so that you're not hitting it, feel free. Okay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lift up on this piece, and then we're gonna top stitch. And then if you would like to, what you can do is you can just start basting all of those pieces together. So now this is just one big old pocket. And we'll trim off all that extra. You want to make sure you only trim it to the exterior panel. Perfection. And now, just to make sure that they're all the right size, what you can do is you can grab your other exterior panel and just kind of line them up to make sure they're the same height. Cha-ching. They're pretty close. My new one is just the tiniest bit shorter, but we can kind of make up for that. It's because I used a little bit wider of a seam allowance, but really, honestly, they're not that far off. Yeah, they're like, that's a cutting issue. They're not that far off. No biggie. So here is our new front pocket. So if you wanted to, you could honestly lower the position of this pocket, but I really like how it's a nice size. So that's 3.5 inches down from the top. You could even go 4.5 inches and it would be just a little bit wider. So you could even make it just like a kind of a slip pocket if you wanted to. So many different options, so many things you can do, and that is why I'll never get bored with making sewing patterns, seriously. Okay, so now we need to baste on our handle connectors, and I believe that they go in about 3 inches from the outside. Oh. I feel like my sewing videos could be like a drinking game where when I drop something on the ground, everybody takes a drink. Not that I really do that. Okay, I'm gonna put these 2.5 inches from the outside edge because that looks right. They're gonna be in your seam about 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch or so. So 2.5 inches. Add your connector. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm not singing a song, especially not that one. If your machine can't really handle layers like this inside of the seam allowance, you could just attach them to the front of your bag as well, or hey, just make regular old handles. So now, if all those extra threads are kind of bugging you and you don't want them to be in the seam allowance later, you just kind of trim them up now. So that's what they'll look like on the bag. Later, of course, later. So I'm gonna set that aside for now, repeat those steps here. That panel is done as well, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to work on putting together the lining really quickly. And this bag actually does come together quite quickly. I know the pattern instructions are in a little different order, but hey, that's okay. The colors of this bag are very Joker-esque. I love it. Well, let's really quickly sew together. These are the two exterior pieces that join together to make your gusset on the bag. So I'm just gonna really quick. The sewing pattern has a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so we're gonna stick to that as best as we can. So baste those together. And then I'm going to butterfly stitch this, and a butterfly stitch is where you sew them together and then you open that seam and stitch along either side. And you can press your fabric open if you are able to iron it, or you can hold it open with your fingers. So there is that for now. I'm gonna set that in my exterior pile, get out of the way. And then we're gonna repeat that same step, even with sewing the butterfly stitch on the lining. And I'm just gonna increase my seam allowance a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, because I want the lining to be really tight inside the bag. Doing the butterfly stitch is absolutely not necessary, but I think it gives it a little something, something, a little je ne sais quoi. So there's my gusset for the lining. And now this pattern only comes with one zippered pocket, but I think it's kind of nice when a bag has a slip pocket inside as well. It's a really quick step, and it makes all the difference to customers when they notice there are several bags inside. So what I'm doing is I folded the edge of this over once and then I folded it over again. And I'm just gonna really quick top stitch over that. Kind of keep it folded as I go. If you need to press it first, feel free, but with this waterproof canvas, it's not always easy to press it down first. And what's nice about waterproof canvas is that the wrong side can be seen because it's not going to start fraying or anything. It's not necessarily the wrong side. It just has this nice wipeable, smooth lining. So I'm going to lay this onto the bottom here. I guess I never really said how to get this measurement, but I just folded my lining piece over kind of where I thought it would look nice. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna baste it all together. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fold this in half and make it a sectioned slip pocket. So right where my fold starts is where I'm gonna start sewing. Just gonna backstitch and do what I like to call a little chicken foot, securing that pocket together, and then we'll go straight down. And then I'm just basting the pocket to the bag. I'll use my thread zapper here to secure everything. So there you have a really easy little slip pocket you can add to the bag, and it took what, an extra 3 minutes of cutting and sewing, but now you've got kind of a pocket where you can put pens, a pocket for phones. People like to add their little key fobs for their cars, stuff like that. So yeah, now we are going to add our zippered pocket to the inside of the bag. I'm gonna fold my lining piece in half, make a nice crease for the center, take one of our pocket pieces and again, fold it in the opposite direction, and then lay those right on top of each other. The creases, making those center creases helps it just like fall into place with the natural center of the bag. And then I can mark out my zippered pocket. This zipper pocket template is from bypiera.com. She sells on Etsy. They're awesome little templates to have. They make things so much quicker. I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna add an 8-inch zippered pocket. Like so. And then we are going to sew around the sides of that zipper pocket. Square. Some people like to sew a complete box, but I like to do just 2 parallel lines. And then I sewed off of that line because I just realized I did the 3/8 inch box and I need a 1/2 inch one for all-purpose zippers, so yeah. So now I'm going to cut into that, cut through the center, cut out to those corners. You want to make sure you cut next to those threads but not through them. And we're going to turn this so that the wrong sides are together. And I'm going to press from the inside of the lining really quick. Big, pretty zipper inside. Sorry, I kicked the camera. I'm not used to it being there. So I'm gonna add this really nice tan colored zipper, a nice neutral inside. It's a little bit longer than I need it to be, so I'm just holding it in between my fingers. I'm gonna start at this outside edge, kind of reposition this and sew down. And turn. And then before I sew that shut, I'm just gonna leave my needle down and just kind of ease the zipper pull back through there. And then turn. I'll just zap my thread. You definitely don't want this coming loose. Okay, so then we'll add the back of the pocket on. And I am totally guilty of hardly ever cutting my zipper pockets straight. I'm just gonna be honest, people aren't really going to notice that the inside of their zipper pocket isn't perfectly straight, especially along the top. So, as long as they're sewn on straight. And then I'm leaving the zipper pocket open. And we're just gonna trim that extra little selvage bit from the lining and the excess on the sides. And top for sure. That's so much extra. But I'm mostly using like little scraps that I have for the zipper pockets just to kind of save fabric. All right, so now we're going to fold this like that and iron it down. And not kick the camera this time. Okay. So now my lining is almost completely finished, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna skip back to the exterior really quick. I did a major change on this bag and I hope that it doesn't come back to bite me in the butt. This is my first time making it this way, so we'll figure it out together. But the side gusset on the bag is, as you know, very long. And what the pattern says to do is also cut out this side pocket panel where like it's this long piece that gets sewn together also, and you sew them together in the middle and then you add these stitch lines and sew it together. It gets really, really bulky in the seams, especially if you're using vinyl. So what I'm trying to do is I cut off this side pocket 1/2 inch longer than where you sew it down, like where you make this little stitch line pocket. If you have the pattern, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I've cut it just a little bit shorter and I'm gonna see if it pays off. I'll definitely explain it as I'm doing it. But we're sewing across the top of these pockets really quick, and then I'm gonna cut off my excess fabric. I was like, why am I cutting this twice when I have to cut off the excess again anyway? So that's me, I'm lazy. Okay. Oh, I ran out of thread. Perfect timing. I knew it was coming. If I had a video editor, I would like make them do like a bobbin counter, like how many bobbins does this bag take? that she could see. Alright. So now I'm going to trim this a bit. You know, I'm gonna actually make them the same size. Why not? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to flip these out. And then if you want to, you can carefully press them from the lining side, or you can just kind of roll it in between your fingers and clip, which is probably what I'll do because I don't want to risk melting the vinyl. Of shimmying the seam to the highest point and adding a clip. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're gonna top stitch. I'm gonna go pretty close to that edge just to give it this nice bulky feeling. And then if you want to, you can baste the fabric all together. I think I actually will, just to make my life a little easier. I'm just gonna make a really long stitch length though. I'm going super close to the edge to baste it all down. Like super close. Sounds like I need to oil my machine, or my bobbin isn't quite in right. Let's check. Let's check. No, everything's fine. All right, so let's test my theory. I think 6.5 inches is what I measured. So 6.5 inches from this point is where this needs to be laid face down. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stitch down this line here, and then it'll get flipped up, and then you'll stitch down that line again, and then we'll just kind of shape it and baste it into place. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. It's definitely making sense to me, and it looks like it's gonna, seriously, it's gonna be perfect. So let me do this really quick. Hopefully you can see. Yes, okay, you can. So here is my butterfly stitched, I'm gonna call it the bum of the bag. And I'm actually doing a little 6 inches and then some, because I didn't take into account my seam allowance when I measured on the sewing pattern. So I can see it's about a finger width of difference right there to there. And I'm gonna clip it into place. and definitely slide that out. I guess I can't really do both at the same time, so I won't. Just kind of put it to where it feels parallel too. That's kind of important. Okay, so I stitched that into place. And now I'm going to flip it up, and we're gonna top stitch over that just to kind of hide our lining. Aha, perfect. So then what we'll do is we're just gonna kind of fold this pocket to match up with the side. So the size of the pockets on this bag are really nice. So there's what that looks like. Got a nice line there. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat that same step. Grab my ruler, lay it 6 inches down. Grab my side pocket, lay them right sides together. Just gonna kind of feel my ruler underneath. You could probably lay your zipper or your pocket or your ruler down a different way. But so this is gonna really help reduce the bulk in that seam. All seams really. Sew that down. So now we can baste our pockets into place. Just kind of resituate that on there. This would be a really fun way to kind of use up an accent fabric you have, because you could use a different color vinyl for this gusset and then add a different color vinyl for your pockets. That could be kind of cool looking. I think I might need to change my needle soon. I've noticed that if my thread kind of starts fraying, it's because my needle needs to be changed or it isn't quite inserted properly. Maybe I'm crazy, but it seems always to help. right. So our gusset is done. We need to work on our zipper closure now. Honestly, you really don't need the zipper closure for this bag. You could add a magnetic snap to the lining if you wanted to, but I know that personally my customers are gonna like the zipper closure. You can see kind of the basic shape of the bag now, where these kind of pockets go. It's pretty cool. I really like it. I really, really like it. All right, so I'm gonna grab my zipper tape. Not my zipper tape. Why do I call it zipper tape? My basting tape. This is 1/4 inch basting tape, and I'm just adding a little piece on the sides of my zipper panel. And this pattern called for 2 exterior fabric and 2 lining fabric. However, if I did that, this would be way too thick because I'm using vinyl for my exterior fabric. So no one's gonna see it underneath the zipper, so I'm choosing not to add anything under the zipper. You absolutely can if you want to, but it's gonna be really thick, I'm just saying. So we're gonna fold the edge under about 1/4 inch for each side. And then I just want to make sure that they're the same size. I did add a little extra width to these zipper panels. The pattern piece, I believe, is like 1.5 inches, maybe a little bit under that. So I went ahead and cut them to 2 inches wide so I'd have a little extra seam allowance to play with, just because that'll make me feel a little better. I believe this pattern calls for a 10-inch zipper. I'm gonna go ahead and grab one a little bit longer. I have this gorgeous purple. Oh baby, yes, it matches perfectly. So I'm just ironing my zipper really quick, trying to get all those gross kinks out. And I'm gonna lay my zipper face down on this panel. I'm gonna actually, yeah, we'll clip it this way, clip it in place. And then for this top here, I'm just gonna fold this down and a clip. So right sides together technically, since this is the wrong side of the zipper. Just a little bit. And then you don't want to sew further than the zipper panel. The zipper tape keeps going, but you really don't want to sew much further than the zipper tape. Okay. So I'm going to fold this open, and I'm going to kind of, here's my seam, but I'm gonna fold it a little bit wider than my seam, just for a little extra security. All right, I'm gonna start at the top of this zipper panel, give a little back stitch. Kind of slowly fold this over as you're sewing. Leave your needle down as you pivot. We're just going to rearrange. So you're gonna have a tail. Since I used a 12-inch zipper, I've got a bit more of a tail, but it's okay, we're gonna trim it off and we're gonna add a zipper end. So it's all good. If you really wanted to, you could sew these folds down first, but I really like the uniform look of that piece sewn on all together. So I'm gonna line up the bottom of the zip panel, add a clip, then I'm gonna flip it over and then continue clipping from this side. Just kind of keep it straight. There we go. And then I'm going to fold over my zipper tape again. Yeah, it really just needs that, but I'm gonna fold it in. I don't know what I'm doing with the zipper tape. I'm just trying something new, honestly. So don't ask. Just kidding. Again, you don't want to sew further than your zipper panel. Oh yeah, man, I need to oil my machine. So we're gonna just repeat those steps from the other side. Fold this over, start at the top. So there's my zip panel, and then I cut out this fun little curved shape very poorly. Oh my goodness, let me clean that up. So this is like an oblong, oval, rectangle piece that I'm going to use for my zipper end, just to kind of give it a little something fancy. So I want this finished to be 10 inches or so. I'm gonna cut it down to 10.5, just because this pull is a little long. I'm still gonna use a lighter just to keep this from fraying. You never know what's gonna happen to the bag once it's no longer in your hands. So just use a little lighter to fray that off. And then I'm gonna fold this over the end. And then I might even add a rivet. Yeah, that's happening. Let me use some tape. Why not, you know? If you feel like this piece isn't quite thick enough, you could always make it 2 layers and then sew it over again. Does that make sense at all to you at all? Just kind of center your zipper tape, fold this over. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, we're gonna sew down the back side and then come up over that half circle, semicircle. Same difference. I'm definitely going to use my thread zapper here. Now, I didn't fold this over perfectly, but that's okay because I can just really carefully just kind of trim it up. Make sure you're not cutting through your zipper though. That would be bad. There we go. And it's like it never happened. So there is my zipper. Unzip, zip. All right, so now we're ready to sew together the lining of our bag because we can now add our zipper panel. So, set you aside. We're gonna fold this in half. Get a nice crease. Grab our gusset and line up the butterfly seam to the center, and then grab the other side and line those up with the top of the bag. So the top of the gusset to the lining gets attached. And clip. And clip. And then to kind of help you with the side seams, just kind of add a few little snips. Keep in mind that it is a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so do not cut too far. I know we're spoiled with 1/2 inch seam allowances on a lot of bags, but with those little clips in the seam, it kind of helps you work them out into the corner. And then you can add a little heftier clips. So not 1/2 inch seam allowance, but a little over 3/8 in a small stitch length. And I did add a little back stitch over my butterfly seam. Now I'm gonna trim my seam allowances, just barely. The seam allowance isn't very big to begin with, but you don't want that extra bulk. Now we're ready to add the other side of the lining. And I already folded it in half to make this center seam of my slip pocket. So I'm just gonna use that as a guide. Top of the bag. Top of the bag. Top of the bag to you. All right. I hope that someday I'll be one of those people that doesn't like necessarily need all these clips. I use a lot less clips than I used to, but I would love to just be like, I'm gonna sew this curve and I'm not gonna clip it. Like, what? Like, that would mark success in my eyes. I've made it as a seamstress. Bag maker? Sewist? What are we? So I'm just gonna kind of work those corners together. And then I like to make sure that, you know, I've come in from my basting stitch on pockets and stuff like that. And I did, thank goodness. Okay. So now we're ready to add our zipper panel. And this is gonna get sewn right side up. I like to make sure that my zippers are all facing the same direction. So if you zip your lining zipper all the way up, it's facing to the left. I was gonna say right, but this way it's right, but this way it's left. So yeah, we're just gonna lay this centered inside the bag. I'm gonna make little tiny center notches just so I know where I'm throwing it. So fold it in half. And you can use a marking pen instead of snipping, it's totally up to you. I'm gonna clip it in place. And then we'll repeat with the other side as well. If you can't find your center, just kind of bring the side seams, those same side seams together, poke it out, you know, give it a little snip. I always like to think of that as like a foolproof way of finding that center, is to add that little clip. Make sure your little zipper tail is tucked out of the way, but that's what it's gonna look like inside the top of the bag. It's super cute. Oh, I can't wait. So we're gonna base this in place. And then make sure you unzip that zipper and then unzip your lining zipper also. We want to make sure we've got this open so we can turn the bag through it. We're going to turn this right side out. Doesn't have to be perfect along the bottom, just so long as you can sew the top to the bag. Trim all my excess threads, or they'll just get caught in my seams. All right, so I'm gonna set my finished lining aside for now, and then we're going to get the exterior of the bag all put together. Ooh, she's so pretty. Okay. So again, we have that butterfly stitch. We can just line up with the center marks on our bags. I still need to add my nameplate, but I think that this this piece here is going to be the back. I always like to keep my zippers close to the body, but that's just me. So we're gonna unzip that zipper. I don't want to get that caught in my side seam at all. That would be so bad. Okay, so clip the top and just kind of ease the rest together. It doesn't look like I need to add many snips to help make this come together, but I am gonna have a lot of bulk on this corner seam, so I guess that's one bad thing about adding that pocket. You could always shorten it a little bit too, sew it up a little higher maybe. Up to you. It's your bag. You're making it. You do what you want. All right, So we're gonna bring that stitch length down to a 3.5. You could do a 4 if you're not sure that is, or if you feel like that's too short. Back stitch, and then I can see my basting stitch, so I want to make sure I come in just a little ways from that. And then as we get closer to this corner, I'm just going to kind of carefully smash it with my fingers. Go really slowly around that corner. There we go. Back stitch over that butterfly stitch. We're reaching that corner again, so I want to slowly maneuver it down. Yay, got it. Okay, I need to change my needle. I promise you this thread is really good. I need to change my needle. Unless somebody watching knows what is causing that issue and can tell me that I'm wrong, which I'm all for. You're like, why aren't you changing your needle? Because I don't feel like it right now. I changed it yesterday. But I guess I've made a lot of things since then, huh? Alright. So now I'm gonna want to trim up that extra seam allowance. Oh yeah, so cute. Don't those colors look amazing together? Oh, I love it, love it. And this for once is not a custom order. This is, I'm gonna have a sale in my Facebook group at the end of October, I think. I'm excited. So now we're ready to add the other side of the bag, but let's just take a moment to appreciate what that looks like. So cute. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, and it actually is standing up pretty nicely on its own. Right now, honestly, if you wanted to, you felt sure enough of yourself, you could probably add a little bit of Peltex to this piece, or even just a little bit of Decaville Light to give it an extra layer of stability. But I think it's meant to be more of a slouchier kind of tote bag, so I am going to just leave it how it is. Leave it how it is. So I'm going to fold this in half and make my center snip along the bottom. And this is also going to help me place my nameplate. Let's put it 4 inches up from the bottom. I've had a lot of people ask me before, like, well, how do you know where to add your nameplate? And it's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know where I'm gonna add my nameplate most of the time. I just kind of, I don't wanna say eyeball it, but I kind of just do what feels right per bag, which is one of the reasons I really dislike custom orders, because I feel like a lot of people expect the bag to look the exact same way every time, and it's like, this is handmade. I can't guarantee it's going to look the exact same every time, and it gets really exhausting trying to tell people that. I didn't start making bags to make money. I did it for fun because they're challenging, and it's really rewarding. don't know, that's just how I feel. I once had someone tell me in a Facebook group, which I shouldn't be upset about, but she said a pocketbook is not a piece of art. Like, why would you charge that much? A pocketbook is not a piece of art. And I know that pocketbook is kind of like a regional term for some people, I guess, like different countries, they call it a pocketbook. But I feel like that just seems so, I don't want to say demeaning, but as someone who makes them, a pocketbook sounds so meaningless in a way. So that's why I like to call them handbags. It sounds really classy and chic, but that really upset me. It was like, I mean, go ahead and you try and make them then. If you think it's not art, go ahead. You make it. You tell me how it is. I feel like something that isn't art is something that requires a lot of skill and knowledge, and that, to me, defines an art. We've just gotten really deep. Sorry. Anyway, I'm just clipping this bag together on all of those seams. I might be adding a little more because with that top of the bag added, it just gets a little thick. Okay, so it's all clipped together. Ooh, she's gonna look so cute. This is my first time making the small size of this bag, so I mean, the measurements are given, but it's hard to know how big it is until, you know, you're making it and it's right in front of you. So on that corner, just kind of rearranging. Sorry, I know I'm blocking. Just trimming up all those extra threads, and then we're going to trim this seam down, down, down. Ooh, I'm trimming down, down, baby. All right, so here is the exterior finally completed. I know it doesn't look like much from the inside. This, like I said, is the small size, so it's a little petite, but this bag goes all the way up to extra large, you guys, and I don't think I'll ever make the extra large. I kind of thought I was going to at first, but when I started cutting it all out and getting it ready, I was like, oh my goodness, this is huge. So I stopped. All right, so I want my zipper pocket to be on the back. You could put it on the front, again, totally up to you, but I am gonna make sure that my zipper panels are all, or my zippers are all going the same way. So all my zipper pulls are opening to the left, closing to the right, and I'm gonna stick this inside. It's gonna be really cramped because of those big side pockets, but the only thing you need to not be messy is the top, so no worries. So we're gonna start clipping at the side seams. Nice and slow. I always like to make sure my seams are all kind of pointing in the same direction. So we're just gonna start with the side seams like I just said. I think I made my zipper a little smaller than I should have, or I should have waited until the bag was done to trim my zipper, but that's okay, we're gonna make it work. So it's pretty well all clipped together, and now we can start sewing. I'm gonna sew from the lining just so I can see where I've basted my zipper panel into place. And I am gonna use a little bit wider of a seam allowance than they suggested just because I need to. Watch out for your hardware. Make sure you're sewing over that safely. And just kind of slowly turn and readjust, make sure nothing becomes unclipped. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I hate it when that happens. I ran out of bobbin thread. Ding, ding, ding. Bobbin number 3. No, this is the 3rd. Okay, good thing I wound 3 bobbins. It's like I knew. At least it didn't happen while top stitching the bag, but it still stinks. Especially when working with vinyl, and it's even worse when you're working with leather because it can hold those holes. All right, new bobbin. Deep breath, pretend it didn't happen. Start in a new place if you have to. Let's just start in a new place. Pick up and move to a new town. Grabbing it all together, turning. Back to the beginning, so I'm just going to trail off my stitch into the seam allowance a little further, and we can trim all of our excess threads. For some reason there are a lot. Oh, that's inside. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. You really don't want to trim your extra strap connectors because those could kind of loosen over time, and if they're too small they're going to loosen a lot faster. You don't want that to happen. That's bad news, baby. Bad news. Okay, so now comes the extremely tedious part of birthing the bag. I probably should have left like a hole in my lining that I could just like right here. You could resew that through this zipper pocket, but oh well, such is life. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and birth this on camera as much as possible. I really don't want to have to move the camera, but it's easier to hold in my lap. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the bottom of the bag in kind of like the ball of my fist, but gently. Yeah, I can't do this on camera, I'm sorry. But I'm pulling it through the pocket. You just want to get as much of the exterior through as you can, and I just kind of go in a circle. It helps to use really nice interfacing for this. The Decoville Light holds very minimal wrinkles and kind of irons out if it's properly interfaced. So cannot recommend that enough. I recently just bought the bolt of it, which is a lot of money, but it's a lot of product. And I don't want to, I hate running out of it. So, okay. And I don't know why, I just kind of slowly ease it out in a circular motion. Kind of just, yeah, there we go. Whoo-wee! It wasn't too bad. I've had worse birthing sessions. Oh my goodness, you guys, the colors on this bag are so pretty. Oh, I'm so excited. All right, slowly push out the corners. I can see happening there. Okay, and then just to test it out, I like to push the lining back inside the bag. Straighten out your zipper. Oh yeah. All right, so now we're ready to close up the inner zippered pocket. So if you need to sew or iron that down, you can, but my creases kind of stay. So I'm gonna add a woven label. And these woven labels, I'm sorry, move the camera again. I'm so sorry, you guys. These have my secondary brand name, which set that inside. So now we're ready to top stitch. Stick your pocket back in there. I always like to zip that up so that I know I've completed that task. Just kind of resituate your lining inside the bag. So you can see here we've got two slip pockets, we've got a nice zipper pocket, and then we've got this front zipper pocket as well. Really nice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stick this zipper inside the bag and just slowly clip around the outside edge. You will be folding your zip panel down into the bag. Just kind of roll the seam in between your fingers. I guess I'll be top stitching from the outside, so I should, oh, that goes down, silly me. And this is another reason why I don't add a lining fabric to this zipper panel, because sewing through my straps and or strap connectors, as well as my lining, as well as another lining, as well as the exterior, as well as another exterior, you know, it gets to be a bit much. So yeah. Okay. Huh. All right. So there's everything clipped together. Oh my gosh, this bag is stunning. All right, sorry, I have to top stitch. And then we're gonna add our handles and then we're gonna be done. Goodbye. All right. So I'm gonna start where my zipper opens the widest. Again, I would recommend maybe waiting to trim down your zipper. That was my bad, so that you could like unzip it really long and then trim it really short. But that's okay, that's okay. So I'm just gonna cram this under my machine carefully. Put some shoulder muscle into it. And then I like to start my top stitch off with a very small stitch length. like a 3 or a 2.5 just to start it off, make sure it's nice and tight, and then go to about a 4.5. Just really slowly over all those curves. Make sure you're catching your zipper panel. If you have to stop to readjust, please make sure you leave your needle down in the fabric. You don't want it to kind of slide on you and move. That would be bad. And then if you can, just give a little back stitch over those strap connectors to reinforce that a little bit more. You definitely want to be using a pretty big needle, top stitch needle, if you're using a basic machine. To readjust, so I'm leaving my needle down and repositioning. It's going to be hard with that zipper in the way, just kind of hold on to it. I like to use my fingers to press on different panels to make sure I'm only sewing through the layers I need to be sewing through. It's like spidey sense, hyper aware in my fingertips. Okay, we're so close to being done, you guys. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm just using little tiny backstitch motions over these strap connectors, nothing too much or could mess up, I don't know. Okay. All right, and now we're at the end. So I'm going to leave my thread really long, and I'm going to use my thread zapper. Just really carefully, not too close, onto the vinyl or exterior fabric, or you will leave a mark. We don't want to do that. I'm just really sealing that up. Can't go nowhere. All right, so all zipped up. That's what it looks like from the top. And this is with a widened zipper panel. I got a little bit of machine oil there. So this is with a 2-inch zipper panel. It ends up being about 1 inch wide. So keep that in mind. If I had done this any smaller, it would have been so tiny and it wouldn't have like sat inside the bag as well as it does right now. Somehow my zipper panel got a little off-centered, it looks like, but I'm not that mad about it. It's not easy to tell. And I'm just gonna push my lining into that bag a little more. There we go. Ready to add these straps on, and I'm only going to be riveting these straps on. I'm going to add 2 rivets to each side of the strap. I think I did it on my last one and it looked so intense, like so strong. Yeah, we're definitely doing that. So I'm folding my strap under about 1 inch so that I have room to add those 2 straps. We're going to rivet those on. It's a nice tight fit. That's what I like. And I always like to clip on my handles and then hold the bag up to make sure that I like the length. Make sure it looks nice, make sure it feels good, make sure they're nice and even. And then I'm going to rivet these handles on. We're gonna call this video and this bag done. Be sure to let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what other patterns you'd like to see in the comments, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!